By beating the Green Bay Packers, have the Denver Broncos finally, officially silenced the doubters that do not believe in them over the course of this 2025 campaign? Did we see a significant step forward, another step forward, with Sean Payton, Bo Nix as a head coach quarterback combination? And does the injury to Patrick Mahomes potentially signal the end of an era and a new changing of the guard in the AFC West? All things to come on today's rundown. Thank you so much for joining us on this Victory Monday, the 11th in a row for the Denver Broncos as they defeat the Green Bay Packers at Empower Field at Mile High. And to help us break down all the action, we welcome in our regular Monday guest, NFL insider to the stars, James Palmer.
What's up, brother?
What's going on, man? Listen, there was a lot of interesting action on Sunday, and we can certainly get into different parts of it. But man, watching that game, the Denver Broncos against the Green Bay Packers, had our guy Philip Lindsay hyping up the crowd before the game. He was the legend of the game. And James, going into Packers week, it felt like there was a little bit of a different tone in the conversation, or a little bit of a different feeling in the air, because as heroic at times and as nail-biting and frustrating and hair-raising as this win streak has been for the Denver Broncos, I think a lot of people were waiting for the other shoe to drop. They thought it might come against the Kansas City Chiefs the first time around. It did not. They thought it might come against the Houston Texans, especially when C.J. Stroud went out of the game in the first quarter. It did not. But this was a Green Bay Packers team, James, that is one of the top seeds in the NFC, that is quarterbacked by a seasoned veteran who's been playing at a pretty high level. They trade for Micah Parsons to solidify was already a pretty solid defense up there in the Midwest. And this kind of felt like a litmus test type of game where it was going to be like, okay, Broncos, if you're for real, let's see how you do against some real deal playoff caliber competition in what could have been a Super Bowl 60 preview. And James, in about as many metrics as one could ask for, I think the Broncos answered that bell, did they not?
Oh, 100%. They 100% did, Rajiv. They answered the bell, certainly. They were in a back and forth fight. They came from behind. They played like a playoff team. They played like a team, if you were there, in a playoff atmosphere. I mean, it was a playoff atmosphere at Mile High. I was standing on the Packers sideline, and a fight breaks out right in front of me, and I recorded it and posted it. Like, the Green Bay defense is coming down their sideline, and Alex Singleton's there, and the linebackers are kind of there, and somebody runs kind of through where he was warming up, and he gives a push, and Drake Greenlaw's in it, and they're all in it right into the Packers bench, and I'm sitting there talking to Packers coaches, and I'm like, this is a playoff game, man. This is a playoff atmosphere, and you don't have that if you don't have the pedigree that the Broncos have, and you don't have the pedigree that the Packers have. And the Broncos, because of the way they're playing and because of the way that we've seen them play consistently for 10 straight heading into this game, like, that's the environment that you want in December. We haven't had that environment at Mile High in some time, to where I could feel it. I've covered so many games here over 15 years, and it's like, I walked onto the field pregame, and I'm like, this is just a different feeling. This team is legit. Like, let's see what happens against Green Bay. And I think everybody was wondering that. I think everybody's doing the same thing with New England. It was these two teams. We have new players in the AFC now, right? We have new legit players in the AFC. Are they for real? We have the four best quarterbacks in football pretty much all in the AFC. Are these new teams for real? And I think everybody was curious about that. And I think last week you and I were talking about it, going, this game in Jacksonville now coming up, that's the time where now you show everybody, like, no, we're for real. And that, to me, was the number one thing I took out of the locker room after the game. These guys, not only did they not even talk about getting a playoff spot in post-game, my understanding is Sean didn't even bring it up, like that they clinched a playoff spot. It was, we're one step closer to getting the number one seed. That's where their mind is. It's not, we clinched a playoff spot. We're a step closer. And then, like, the way these guys feel like they're being disrespected is really kind of, I think, impressive.
I was just going to go there, James, because there was a significant tone-setting attitude coming out of that locker room that I feel like regardless of the player you talk to, it was Bo Nix saying, hey, we're not underdogs, we're overdogs. Okay. Riley Moss, ball don't lie. Okay. You had so many players talk about Patrick Surtain saying, oh, all the people who doubted us and didn't believe in us, they're awake now.
Yeah, Garrett Bowles, like everybody.
Garrett Bowles throughout the a good portion of this season talking about how we don't care if anybody believes in us, we believe in us. You got John Franklin Myers talking about how, hey, people that aren't in our building don't know what we do and don't know what we're about, and that's fine, but we're going to show them. And James, they continue to do it. What do you think that those comments, especially the handful from the likes of Bo Nix and PS2 and Riley Moss and Garrett Bowles that came out after the game, what do those comments, that attitude and that tone say about where this team is at, where this locker room is at ahead of a postseason push that's just a number of weeks away?
It says everything about their head coach. To me, it says everything of what Sean Payton is. Every voice that you're hearing with all of these guys, Alex Singleton was talking to us. He's like, we were underdogs, right? Yeah. How many? He was looking around. He was looking at Jonathan Cooper. How many games have we won in a row now? Is it 11? Is it 11 games we won now? Like it was, you can hear like the sarcasm, the feeling of disrespect. Like, I can't believe you guys don't see it the way we see it. That is all from Sean Payton. Sean had, it sounded, when I'm listening to these guys, I'm like, this is Sean. Like, it sounds like Sean. The confidence he's instilling in you. I've talked to so many guys that have played for him, and he was like, do you understand how he makes you feel? How you should feel the confidence that he has in you and the way he tries to talk to you and give it to you? That's the way I thought all of these guys were speaking post-game. They have that kind of Sean Payton swagger to them a little bit. He had this team, and I feel like we've talked about this over the years, even you and I, Richie, like he had this team believing they were winners before they had won anything. And they were a young team 2 years ago. And you were sitting there in that locker room during the week. You're like, these guys really carry themselves with a lot of confidence. I have no idea why. They're not that good.
Right.
But he did it so quickly. And now they have a quarterback in place that does the same thing to everybody in the huddle that Sean does to everybody in the locker room. So now you have both of those guys. I don't know if they do it exactly the same way, but talk to anybody that's in that huddle with Bo. And even when the offense wasn't working, he instilled a confidence in you that you could feel. I've had guys tell me that. Sean does that for the whole 53, and that's what I heard in the locker room. That was Sean Payton everywhere.
James, I called into our postgame show on the radio last night.
Did you get in? Did you get through?
I did. I was at the way back of the queue. Back of the queue because we had a lot of excited people, justifiably so, who were calling in to react as they do every single game night after the game. But I felt compelled to do it because I was conflicted within myself as someone who has ridden this wave throughout the first 14 weeks or so of the season, going into the off season with the hype and then watching it kind of deflate a little bit out of the first 3 weeks of the season. And then even as the win streak started to mount up, there were so many elements of it that you could easily and cynically point to and say, it's not sustainable. It's not believable. It's not going to last. And James, watching that Packers game, which I had touted and you and I had talked about leading into Packers week, I'm like, hey, this is a heavyweight fight. This is a legitimate good team rolling into town that could make a deep postseason run with the same aspirations that you have. And watching the way that they won that game, having to battle from behind, having to overcome adversity. Obviously, you had situations with Christian Watson and Micah Parsons, but you also had situations with the Broncos and Mike McGlinchey testing things out before the game. You're missing one of your wide receivers that you just drafted. And just watching it play out and a defense for the Broncos having to go up against an offense that, hey, this is probably not the week that you're going to be able to ask the defense to just be smotheringly, suffocatingly dominant and turn the water completely off, because that's a good offense with Matt LaFleur and Jordan Love in Green Bay. That turned out to be the case. And for Sean Payton and the offense to rise to the occasion and be at the end of a game going shot for shot, toe to toe, and watching Bo Nix put some balls through a birdhouse of a window.
Is that yours?
It was. I heard that one said once, and I keep it in the Rolodex. Just that little hole in the front of the birdhouse. But James, I started to have the conversation with myself of enough. If you can't look at what the Broncos have done now culminating with this win against the Packers, and look at them as a team that is a bona fide number one seed in the AFC, that has a win streak now that is getting close to franchise record level at 11 wins in a row. I think they're only 2 short of the franchise record from 1998.
It's pretty good.
And as a legitimate Super Bowl contender, if they haven't shown you enough through these last 11 games and over the course of this season to get you to believe in that, then I don't know what else they could show you. And so for me, I started to look around within myself as someone who's had some reservations at times and go, you know what? Enough. This Broncos team absolutely can win a Super Bowl in 2025. I think they have shown as a body of work over the course of this season that they can do it. And if they continue to maintain the number one seed and their 2 home playoff games away from reaching Santa Clara, it's something that we very, very well may see come to, if not fruition, may have a chance to happen at a minimum.
Certainly. I think the reason, and there's a couple of them, and we can go through them, that they haven't gotten the benefit of the doubt is because in this league, you're often accredited that over the course of time.
Yeah.
Like you talk to people right now, and everything that went wrong in Kansas City, and we can get to it, but like they're still given the benefit of the doubt in 2026. Like they're going to be back. Like they'll bounce back from this because there's such a large sample size of success. I get it. I understand. That's how we usually work with a lot of these things in the NFL. But I don't know why the Broncos aren't credited with it when you turned it around in year 1 of your quarterback and were a playoff team in his rookie season. You have one of the better starts, honestly, wins, losses, however you want to equate quarterback play that we've seen in the 2-year stretch to start a career for a quarterback. And you have a Super Bowl winning head coach, and you have one of the best defenses in football. I think it's hard for people to become believers because we're shifting things, right? Schefter put it out, and I know everybody's known it, but like this is our first postseason without Brady, Manning, or Mahomes since 1998.
Yeah.
So like people have a hard time switching. And when you're in the same division as that other team, it's difficult. And I think the other part is teams have burned fans, honestly, when they become believers. I think the Chargers have done it to people in the past. We're going like, this team's legit. And then they kind of fall apart. And there's teams where you go, and it makes people be a little bit hesitant about buying in fully. And they want to see more. And I think Denver has only answered the bell each time. Now, I know that there's been up and down aspects of the offense. People in the locker room will admit that our offense has had struggles. But when you're a good team, which I think they are in all 3 phases, even special teams are outstanding. And so I think it just takes time because we're so used to the only contenders in the NFL having just this higher degree of quarterback play than everybody else. What does everybody say? We chase it in Denver for an eternity. If you don't have one of these guys, you can't win a Super Bowl. That's what we're told all the time. If you don't have one of these game-changing type players, you can't win a Super Bowl because oftentimes those are the guys. I just mentioned the stat with those guys. So until your quarterback gets into that conversation, for some reason, we are always very hesitant about putting teams that don't have that player in the conversation. And, it's wild to watch, actually.
There'll be no way for me to prove it, James, obviously, without, a Wayback Machine or some kind of, retroactive butterfly effect.
Ooh.
But there's a part of me that isn't sure that the Broncos would be on the win streak that they're on if nationally everyone gave them the benefit of the doubt and their flowers. There is a part of me that thinks that the Broncos have been helped and helped themselves along the way of this 11-game win streak by using the fact, and this probably is a testament and a credit to Sean Payton and maybe the way that he is able to kind of craft that message, to say, hey, nobody believes in us. Now we're going to go prove them wrong. Because once you're on the other side of that coin, once you're the Kansas City Chiefs and the Patrick Mahomes with this dynasty, everyone is always waiting for you to fail. They're trying to find reasons and ways for it to happen, and it's your job to prevent it from happening. You're playing defense rather than playing offense. You're trying to protect a legacy rather than make one. And I just think that the chip on the shoulder, maybe it doesn't go full Last Dance Michael Jordan level where you're just manufacturing things that aren't real. Like there was real, valid, documented, printed criticism week after week after week of the Denver Broncos. But there's a part of me, James, that really believes that the fact that they were never given the benefit of the doubt throughout the majority of that streak, at least not unanimously, maybe helped fuel some of that motivating factor along the way.
I think there's maybe an aspect to it. I think I would say maybe to a greater extent once you get to, and you mentioned Kansas City, and you get everybody's best shot.
Yeah,
the week is different for your opponent once you garner that reputation.
That's a good point.
The preparation, the attention to detail, hey, this is going to be, teams play up to you a lot. I don't know if Denver's there. They might be soon if they keep playing this way. And you can also, coaches are going to say it during the week all they want, right? Like I bet you everybody in Green Bay was sitting there going like, yeah, this is a legit team here. This is one of the best teams in football. You guys better prepare. Of course, they're driving that message home. But until you've done it, the players in the locker room still have in the back of my like, is this team for real? Like, I don't know. I need to see it I bet you the Packers left that Mile High going, that team's for real. Like, that team's definitely for real. So I do think that plays a little part of it as well.
We mentioned Bo Nix earlier, and I want to ask a specific question dedicated to the Broncos quarterback because, again, I'm weighing it back and forth within myself because I think when you look at the maturation and the growth process of Bo Nix through the first almost now two regular seasons of his NFL career, I think I'm constantly trying to evaluate where he's at, how quickly we think he might be moving, and how far he can continue to travel on that growth trajectory as an NFL quarterback. Well, James, we just watched him at the latest stop in a season where he's had some clunkers as a quarterback, and they've had some clunkers as an offense. But, James, we just watched Bo Nix defend home court at Empower Field at Mile High by going toe-to-toe with the Green Bay Packers defense to the tune of 302 yards and 4 touchdowns in a game that ultimately wasn't going to be iced without some significant high degree of difficulty throws. I mentioned before, in my opinion, he put a couple of those through a birdhouse. And just had to bring it back one more time. But James, did we see over the course of this 4 quarters against Green Bay, Bo Nix as a potential franchise quarterback, and maybe the combination of Bo Nix and Sean Payton as the head coach and quarterback combo, which to me is so important for an NFL franchise's kind of ceiling establishment, is how far can your head coach and your quarterback take you, and how in sync are they? Did we see this Packers game as a step forward for the head coach and quarterback of the Denver Broncos?
It's the best game he's ever played, in my opinion. It's the best game he's ever played in a number of players' opinions that I talked to in the locker room. They said he was on just another level in how he played. This has been a slow build over the last couple of weeks when I talked to a couple of guys. The way that this offense has kind of started clicking, they've been seeing it for maybe 3-4 weeks. And this was kind of the culmination of it. And what everybody in that locker room kind of told me was, and this is the perfect time for it to happen. Obviously. And of course you want it to happen in December, but it's been happening this little build. They know they've had issues, but the confidence part that I mentioned to you, I think is very important to say. Even when they weren't playing well, he was instilling that confidence in himself and the rest of the huddle and the rest of the offense, even when they weren't playing, at a very high level as an offense. I think what we saw though, and I like your question because we did see both of them kind of at their best in this game. The number of guys I talked to that said, this game plan, man, it was a great game plan. I think Sean said it at the podium. I wasn't in there for Sean. I was in the Packers locker room, but Adam Troutman kind of told me, he's like, our goal was to keep that defense on the field. Micah Parsons wants to be aggressive and rush the quarterback, and they want to get downfield, and Sean Gary wants to get downfield, and they want to come at us with speed and things like that. We're going to wear them out at elevation. So they decided not to change personnel the way they usually change personnel. They try to keep the same personnel on the field. Bo was actually asking Sean, and you probably saw this. I saw in the press box a bunch, trying to get the play in faster. They wanted to play quicker to wear out Green Bay. And so there's that Sean part of it. And then there's the Bo part of it. Let's get into that, which is he's forcing Sean to change. And I was talking to somebody that knows this offense inside and out, played in it for eternity, and was like, when I watch what he's doing with Bo, I'm like, what are these plays? Like, we didn't run these plays in New Orleans. Like, what are these? Sean's having to change because he has a player that plays on the move so well. And his previous, and I think he brings up Drew a lot, obviously, plays the position in a very different manner in which he is going to be in the pocket and pick you apart, and he doesn't want to move. He doesn't move. He doesn't want to move. Bo plays on the move as good or better than anybody in football right now. Like, I was talking to some people before the game, and it's like, he might be the best thrower of the football on the move in the NFL. Kurt Warner said that to me last week, so I tried to confirm it with people in the building, and they're like, yeah, I think that's the case. Like, Kurt thinks he's the best thrower of the football on the move. So Sean has now changed as we talk about this relationship. There's stuff where they've added as the year has gone on now of like, let's get him moving over here and play here. Let's take advantage of Bo's ability to move and avoid pressure, but also just play it into the concept of the play. And that's Sean and that's Bo working to their strengths together, and Sean's adapted and Bo's playing really, really well these last couple of weeks. And if this is where they're headed, I'm really excited to see what they continue to build together, because there's people in that building right now that are going, this was maybe his best game, and this is the start of what we think Bo Nix can be.
Quickly here before we change gears, James, it's going to end up being our poll question for this week, because I've already seen some whispers and some comments about it on social media.
You saw the whispers?
Yes. It's like I have one of those like auditory, conditions.
I got you. I can smell colors too.
Yes, exactly. So I've heard the whispers, and I've seen the comments on social media. I didn't realize until you called it out, I didn't realize I switched it like that. Are the Denver Broncos sitting at 12-2 on an 11-game win streak with an even further lead now on the top seed in the AFC West? Are they playing like the best team in the NFL right now? And if not, because I think there's a very valid other candidate in this conversation, how far down the list do you have to go if you're ranking the best teams in the NFL right now before you get to the Denver Broncos?
Let's go with it. Let's go with them and the Rams as the two best teams in football right now.
It's the only two that I would think of. Yep.
I think Seattle's very, very good. I do. I think Seattle's very, very good. And I think John Schneider, by the way, has done an outstanding job in Seattle. If you think about it, hiring Mike McDonald 2 years ago and bringing in Clint Kubiak this year and saying, I have Jackson Smith-Njigba, I don't need these other receivers. They've drafted so well. John's done a great job.
Yep. And then New England lost to Buffalo, but they're great too.
And they're still very good. And I think that we had a very chipper Mike Vrabel on Monday after that loss. I'm curious if Mike's like, I think my boys kind of needed this. Like, we needed a little like, hey, we're not as good as we think we are. Because can't you picture Mike thinking that way? Like, I'd like to bring my team back down to earth a little bit. Like, you know what I mean? And I think he might like it. And they might be better for it, honestly. But when I look at Chase Daniel and I were having this conversation on our show on The Athletic today. And so that's why this perked my interest. Let's go down the list. And you tell me, I'll answer as well.
Okay.
Between the Rams and the Broncos. Let's go down the list, and I'm going to say them to you, and you tell me either Rams, Broncos. Okay. Secondary, Broncos.
Right? Yeah.
Linebacking group. They're both pretty good.
Yeah, they're both pretty good. I mean, I might lean Rams there, but I like what I've seen from Dre Greenlaw being healthy and back 100%. Fully in the lineup.
Totally. It stinks you lose Sherrod, by the way, which is a bummer that your depth side of things. He's been a great player to fill in and smart. Defensive line. They're both A pluses.
Yeah. I was going to say
a little better, maybe, but
I'm never going to pick against a group that's got Zach Allen in it. I'm just not.
Exactly. But man, that Rams one is really good.
It's yeah.
They're great. Offensive line. I'd say Denver's probably better than
it's been their strongest unit on offense. Yeah,
exactly. Skill players.
Rams.
The pass catchers. I'd say the Rams are probably better. I mean, you have the leader in receiving touchdowns in Puka Nacua.
Puka Nacua absorbs a lot.
Yeah. And then, Devontae Adams leads the NFL in touchdown pass.
Yeah.
Who might be out either way, I think a little bit of time. Running backs.
Rams.
I'm going to say Rams.
Yeah.
Quarterback. Bo's playing great. The other guy's the MVP of the league.
I listen. It's Rams. Matthew Stafford is unbelievable.
And then the last one would be coach. I think that's a wash. I mean, these are A-plus coaches, like A-plus head coaches. I really think that.
Yeah, it's the same argument as the defensive line there. Like, you're really not going to go wrong. You're in a great situation either way.
You're right. Like, everybody else in the NFL is like, give me that. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I'll take it. And the same thing I think you could say for both of these offensive-minded head coaches on the defensive side of the ball. I think Shula's outstanding. He's going to get a lot of attention, Chris, in this head coaching cycle. And I think VJ's been outstanding as well on the defensive side. So my argument with this conversation is this. If everybody is just so firmly entrenched that the Rams are the best team in football, and we just went down this list, and there's a lot of things where we go, I don't know which one.
Mm-hmm.
You have to put the Broncos in that conversation as the best team in football.
Yeah, no, I think that, listen, I think it's okay if the ultimate determination in a lot of people's minds is like, hey, they're not the best team. They are the best team in the AFC. They are now widening that gap based on the record and what they've put on paper. But if they aren't the best team in the NFL, at least right now, if we're taking a snapshot of it, the fact that they're in the conversation means that everything that they have in front of them is still in front of them. Mm-hmm. And I think if you get to that point, if we have a Broncos-Rams Super Bowl,
that's what I was saying.
Santa Clara, let's let the chips fall where they may.
Exactly. I'm also saying in this exercise, the team that we're comparing, you don't have to play them unless you get to the Super Bowl.
Right.
So like, that's where Denver sits right now. I think it's a really good spot. And I loved going down the list with you, kind of going, there's a lot to say here about this Denver team for sure. When you compare them position group by position group against who many believe, and I think I myself might be included in that, just because I think Stafford's the X factor.
He's unbelievable.
The best team in football. Yeah.
It is time to hit the turn, presented by The Birdie Bar, Louisville's premier indoor golf bar and restaurant. Check them out online or on Instagram at thebirdie.bar. James, I want to have a conversation about another team in the AFC West who had some very unfortunate injury news on top of a loss and on top of an elimination from postseason contention yesterday, obviously being the Kansas City Chiefs. Patrick Mahomes tears his ACL. His timeline and status is going to be determined, I would assume, in the short term very quickly, and then we will see how it stretches over into next season. But, James, the question being asked by a lot of people now, because of the elimination from postseason contention that would have happened regardless of the injury, but you add the injury on top of it, plus the aging of a Travis Kelce, the uncertainty of effectiveness of a guy like Chris Jones that we've seen up and down this season. Is this the end of an era for the Kansas City Chiefs? And I want to make sure that that's a distinction. I'm not saying is this is the dynasty dethroned, because I think those are two different things. And Brady's 20-year run of dominance had multiple different eras to it, with different supporting casts, different strengths, different weaknesses, where he was just the nucleus of it. But is this the end of the Kansas City Chiefs era that we've seen dominate the league for the better part of the last decade or so?
I would push back a little bit and say I think they've already gone through two eras of Patrick Mahomes' career.
Sure, yeah, post Tyreek Hill.
Exactly. You had the high-flying offense of Tyreek Hill. You had a much different quarterback once Reek was gone, of Patrick playing probably a less flashy, smarter type of player as the defense got better and carried them for stretches. And you had this defense that was, in December in the postseason, just outstanding, specifically in the biggest moments. And Patrick understanding that, and it shifts. I mean, Kelsey's obviously been the running mate with him for this whole period of time, but you had different iterations of that defense. I think, when you had the Tyrann Mathieu group, which is like really, really smart on the back end, and Spags used that. And then you had the group that just got really, really good up front, and you utilize that. I think they're going to have to be very different. I think you still have Andy Reid and you still have Patrick Mahomes. I'm curious what Travis does. This is the last year of his contract. Does he want to go out this way after the career he's had? I know he loves being in the building, loves being around the guys. It's kind of like his escape, obviously, from his mega stardom that he has, and he just loves being one of the guys in the building. But when I look at where they're at, I think this is the offseason of Brett Veach. And I think Veach is a very good general manager. He's very aggressive. He's in on almost anything. But they're $43 million over the cap. There's only one team that's higher, is over the cap worse in 2026, and that's the Cowboys. So financially, they're going to have to make some, restructures and change some things. And that's possible. You can do it, obviously. But you have to find a way to sign Trent McDuffie, who's one of the best corners in football. And what has happened to the corner market in the last 12 months? Skyrocketed.
Yep.
You got to give Chris Jones some help up front. He's exhausted. He's exhausted. And he's playing his tail off, but he's playing more snaps than he's ever played. And you got to give him some help up front. You got to revamp your running back room, probably. You have to ask yourself the question, is Rashee Rice as good as we believe he is? Because they believe he's a top 10 receiver.
Mm-hmm.
Is Xavier Worthy, did he make a jump in year 2 that he's going to be a legitimate threat for? He has one touchdown catch this year.
Yeah, he's on my fantasy team. I know that painfully.
Oh, I'm sorry. Is this receiver group a group that Patrick really, really trusts? I don't know if he really, really trusts this group. I know they wanted, with both the guys I mentioned and Hollywood Brown, to be this high-flying group that was going to go downfield and stretch it and, create some space for Travis and Rashee to go underneath in these crossing routes. Does he fully trust them? This year, and I have it in front of me, this is his lowest completion percentage and passer rating of his career. Worst season he's ever had in his career in terms of performing under pressure. Worst sack rate of his career. Worst touchdown to interception ratio and passer rating on third down of his career. And the part that stood out the most this season is, before 2025, when he faced a top 5 defense, he was 8-0, averaging 28 points a game.
Wow.
325 passing yards and a 95 rating. You know what he was this year against top 5 defenses?
0-3.
3,
yeah.
With 1 touchdown, 5 picks, and below a 60% completion percentage. Like, there's something broken within the offense a little bit. Do I think they can fix it? Certainly. They have, and this goes back to the start of our conversation, enough time on task for us to believe they can, right? Like, there's too much consistent success for us to think otherwise. So I'll consistently think that they will come back. And we know how Patrick's wired, and he will go crazy in terms of his rehab. And he's one of the people, if you talk to people around the league, like, if you tell him he can't do something or he's been against the wall, like, he responds better than anybody else in the game. But I just listed a lot of questions that you got to have answered this offseason.
Well, let me ask you a question then down that same vein, because it popped into my head, and the way that you just laid it out, I think, fits perfectly, because you're talking about a season full of off-season questions for the Chiefs, and you have a reasonable level of faith or confidence that they can answer those questions that are being asked. If I was to give you a look into a crystal ball at the next 4 AFC championships, the Chiefs are out of AFC West championships.
Okay.
Let's just say that. Division titles, because it's a conference, that's too much. But I'm looking into a crystal ball, James, at the next 4 winners of the AFC West division, a division that the Kansas City Chiefs have dominated since the Broncos won the Super Bowl.
9 straight.
9 in a row. Given where Kansas City is at right now, with the questions and the challenges that they're facing and the potential faith and confidence in them to answer them, if I set the number at 1.5 from 2026 over the next 4 seasons after that, 1.5 times the Kansas City Chiefs win the AFC West, you taking the over? Or, because of the rise of the Broncos and the continued kind of regular season threat that the Chargers have established themselves as, is 1.5 maybe too high?
Over the next 5?
I'll give you 5. Sure. I was going to say 4, but 4? If you want to do 5, let's do 5.
4 is tough. Yeah, 4 is a little different challenge. If it was 5, I'd take the over.
Okay.
I would. But I understand what you're saying, because you know what we could use as a perfect barometer? The NFC West. Do you know the 3 teams in the NFC West, between the Rams, Seahawks, and 49ers? Those are the 3 teams that have the highest percentage chance of getting the number 1 seed in the entire NFC.
I was looking at those standings in that division earlier today. It is crazy.
They're all, let me say that again. The 3 teams with the highest probability right now to get the number 1 seed in the NFC are all in the same division. Like, that's wild to me. And I know the Niners have like an 11% chance, but it's third. Like, and then, obviously the Rams, and then the Seahawks, and then the Niners. So I could see, like, the dogfight that is the NFC West being the next 5 years of the AFC West. Like, teams playing at that high of a level, and you could have all 3 of these teams make the postseason regularly, right? So I could see that being what the AFC West becomes. Is, I mean, you got what is it? 11-3 and 11-3 and 10-4
Yeah.
in the NFC West.
Yeah.
It's nuts. And so I could see that being the case. I would also, maybe I won't take the over now. You think Andy coaches for 5 more years?
It factors into the evaluation. You know, I have been of the mind traditionally that I think Andy Reid is going to fight tooth and nail to make sure that nobody else gets to coach Patrick Mahomes for a very long time, because of the fact that he found him, helped develop him, built this dynasty, and kind of did that. And why let somebody else, you know, leech on that success when you could potentially retire as the greatest coach of all time, at least maybe by a win standpoint. You're never going to catch Belichick, you know, probably at this point. But so I don't know, but
I think also, in knowing people in that building, I've always been under the understanding of, I don't think we're going to get a heads up from Andy.
Yeah.
I think he's just going to one day just decide, like, I think it's good. I think I'm good. And he'll tell the organization, I think I'm good. And it's not going to be that's not him, some big to do or anything. Yeah. I think he just will one day in a postseason just be like, you know what, I think this is it. And he'll tell them, and that'll be it. So, I mean, I'm so excited to watch this division over the next couple of years, because it's good.
Yep. And I think that you know, if it's as simple as Andy Reid steps down and maybe Steve Spagnuolo takes over, who's been with the organization forever, was a right-hand man with Andy, and maybe you just change the focus a little bit. Or
him or Nagy.
Yeah, Nagy too. That's a good point.
He's been there a bunch. Maybe you do one of those guys.
It's going to be fascinating. It's going to be fascinating to watch. And man, it just, the NFL is wild, man. I mean, the Broncos were in the cellar. They were in the basement in so many ways for so long. It felt like year after year after year. It was like Groundhog Day of sadness. And now, James, in the last year and a half, and really this year, it feels like that feeling is such a distant memory in some ways. Like we've just completely kind of turned a page here in Broncos country in a way that I find really exciting.
Yeah. I also think it's like a lesson in team building. I think they've built this team the right way. And I think it's something you should take note of. I mean, because we're looking at and evaluating the roster in Kansas City, and it seems like there's some glaring holes about where they're at. And it's like, I think they have a really clear-cut philosophy about how they want to build this team in Denver. And I think they've done a really, really good job of executing that. And I think that, to me, stands out a lot. That's how you build a winner. You know, I mean, that's how you build a team the right way. And I don't think they overpay for players. I don't think it looks like they overpay for players that are getting up there in age and you're taking a risk. I think they're very risk adverse in how they operate as an organization, and how they determine their contracts and how they build this team. And I think they're building it for sustained success. And the piece that was missing was the quarterback. And you have a guy that's playing really, really, really good football right now. And so it's been a grueling, I guess, path.
Yeah.
But now when you look at it, you're like, well, they kind of did it the right way in some aspects. And now they're reaping the benefits of that.
They are. And we will hope that over the final 3 weeks of the season, you got a fun, interesting test against the Jaguars.
Yeah.
A game against
Nobody
the Chiefs.
likes the Jags, by the way. Nobody likes them.
No, but that's, again, I think that's a sneaky spot to be in. I think the Broncos have been looked at similarly to the Jags
That's a good point.
in a lot of their games this season. So we'll see how it shakes out. Got a handful of games left in the season, and then the postseason is here, man. And in the NFL, one thing that they've proven is that once those playoffs come to fruition, anything can happen. James, thank you so much for joining us, as you do every Monday. Yeah. Keep an eye out for everything you and Steve Smith got going over at the 89. I'll listen for you on Denver Sports 104.3 The Fan.
I think we're going to do a Broncos episode this week.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah. Can't wait to check it out. Shout out to Steve. Shout out to you.
Did you hear Steve on the radio the other day?
I did. I was like, I'm walking around. I'm hearing the speaker. I'm like, who's talking right now? I just heard James, and now it's this. And I'm like, it's got to be Steve. And sure enough, it was.
Yeah, we're skiing Vail together.
Yeah.
Friday.
Yeah. Lowest effort interview you've ever had to give. It was great.
Yeah, Mike called that out pretty good. Mike made a point to say that. Yeah.
Oh, man. James, we appreciate it, man. We'll catch up again next week.
All right. Take it easy, buddy.
To the rest of you out there, have a wonderful rest of your Monday afternoon and soak in the Victory Monday. We'll be back tomorrow at noon for the next rundown. I do what I love what I do.
need you to put in the work.